What's going on all my friendly neighborhood YouTube watchers? So I know I said that in my last video that my next video would be about my diet. I lied. Actually some stuff happened, come up, and I hadn't got to the diet video, and that was my plan. But a few other things come up that I wanted to talk about first. So catch you in 9 seconds. My dog has captured the sight of another dog. She's gone crazy. She was up there barking her ass off. Now she's looking for her. Poor girl. Poor girl. She wanted to go make a friend. Alright, so take two. I was actually in Springfield when I recorded this the first time, and I was super tired, so I really didn't like it. I took too long really to talk about it. So I'm gonna kind of update. I delivered that horrible load I was under. I got another load coming from North Carolina going to Macon, Missouri. Wasn't super excited about it, but it got me back out of the east. So I was hoping for something better going in. Run into some troubles on the way there, and ended up having to go to Springfield. So I'll talk about the troubles I had and tell you why I was so tired when I recorded this the first time. So on the way from North Carolina to Macon, Missouri, I had a.p.u. trouble. Stayed the night at a pilot just like right in the mountains before you get to Tennessee in North Carolina. And that night the a.p.u. quit running. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with these trucks, but they have an automatic idle shut-off on them. So if it's not within a certain temperature range, if it's not above like 82 or 85 degrees, it shuts off. If it's not below like 35 degrees, the truck will shut off. After about like a minute or so, you'll get a warning saying that it's going to shut off, and then it'll start a 200-second countdown. I think altogether it's close to around 5 minutes. And so when that happened, I was trying to keep the truck cool because I run hot, and yeah, there's no way that I would be able to stand 70-something degrees in here and be able to sleep comfortably. I mean, so it was either I burn up and lose sleep, or I just kept the truck cool and lose sleep. So I tried to keep the truck pretty cool. You can idle these trucks high up to like 1,000 RPM. That wasn't working, because on some trucks that'll override the idle shutoff. That didn't work. It didn't override it. You do have a shutoff button up here, but you got to hit it every time within that 5-minute interval. You got to hit that button to override the idle shutoff. So I would have had to sit up here and hit that button constantly. And I don't like rolling my windows down or opening my windows much, because you got a lot of noise pollution in these towns and at these truck stops or rest areas, with all the vehicles coming and going. You have a lot of dirt and dust and road grime blowing around, and from vehicles going by, or if it's windy. So I'm not into that. This ain't exactly a real dirty job, but it's dirty enough that on nights that I don't get a shower or can't get a shower, I keep baby wipes on the truck. I call it a baby wipe bath. I'll wipe myself down, and every night, like on a day that I don't get a shower, when I get ready to lay down and I wipe off with baby wipes, I get dirt and grime and stuff off of me, off my face, off my neck, especially places that, you sweat, like in the creases of your neck, or you know, in the creases of your arms and stuff, behind your ears. So, you know, I already get dirty enough. I don't want to leave my windows open all night to allow more dirt and dust just to blow into my truck and settle on me and settle in my truck. So yeah, I don't do that. Then I got to, so I struggled with that night. And of course I thought it's probably, sounded like to me it was probably the fuel, you know, not getting fuel. Of course, talked to Road Assist. They said the same thing. They thought, yeah, they said, yeah, it sounds like probably the fuel pump. There is a campaign on the fuel pump, so you'll have to come in. So even though the load going to Missouri wasn't all that great, I guess it was actually a blessing, because it got me closer to Springfield to get my APU worked on. But yeah, the Macon load wasn't very good either on the other end, because when I got to the 90, appointment was at 1300 and ended up not getting out of there until 2000. So appointment was at 1 p.m. didn't get out of there until 8 p.m. So that sucked. Another detention load. I still haven't got detention from that other the load in North Carolina. Dispatcher said it could take a couple of weeks, so I got to keep my eyes open on it. And yeah, I've made notes for it and the Macon load, so that way, like, I've set some reminders to remind me to keep check on it, and to talk to my fleet manager to stay updated on that. Also, when I got to Macon, you know, having the APU trouble, lost sleep there, having to try to keep the truck, you know, cool. Like I said, I tried everything I could think of at the time. I actually, for some reason, just didn't think about this other thing that I'm fixing to explain. But yeah, I tried to think of how I could override it. I even messaged Road Assist. They was like, "Oh, we'll take it to a dealer." Like, dude, I ain't got time to take it to a dealer right now. You know, wasn't even a dealer close around. Like, so of course, that was let's see, what was that? I don't remember. It wasn't my normal Road Assist. My normal Road Assist person is Erica. I think it was like some brown guy or whatever. And he's never worth a shit. He doesn't help out very often or very well, I don't think. Not with me anyway. Not saying he doesn't. Maybe other people's had, you know, good interactions with him, but every time I've talked to him, it's not always that great. You know, Erica, she does a very good and thorough job. Sometimes it makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but it's because she don't know me, you know, so she just tries to make sure that I am doing everything possible to try to fix the situation. So I did end up talking to her later on about it. You know, we was trying to figure out what the problem was, and like I said, she concluded that it was probably the fuel pump as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit, on how to reset it, because you have a power button on the control panel, and then you have a power button out there on the APU. I'll touch on that in a little bit. So anyway, yeah, I got that load in Macon delivered, and finally got down to Springfield. And while I was, well, actually, went and picked up another load in Edwardsville, a Hershey load that got me down to Springfield, and I delivered it in Republic. And so stopped in there at Prime, and yeah, the fuel pump was supposed to be a campaign, but come to find out, they said something like it's a new model fuel pump and they're not allowed to touch it. So ended up having to leave the express lane for APU campaigns and go over to Bay 21, and then they had to confirm that they were allowed to change it, and ended up having a couple other problems. They had to change out my air hoses. They said you can't just get one air hose. I had to buy both air hoses and the electric line that goes to the trailer. I was like, golly, so there's some more money I'm out. to replace that because the airline was rubbing against the catwalk. I wanted to say when I had them hung up, it was coming down and it was rubbing against the catwalk, and I didn't notice it because most of the time, a lot of times, I'm attached to a trailer. And then they found a little leak in the engine compartment that they had to fix. So yeah, good times, man. But while all that was going on, I actually told my wife, I said, I don't know why didn't think of this, but I almost am certain that if you scotch your wheels, which I didn't have wheel scotch to try this, but I said if you scotch your wheels, or if you set your brakes on your trailer, if you're hooked to a trailer, I'm pretty sure that as long as you disengage your parking brake to your truck, that it overrides the idle shutoff. And a little bit later, after we got everything fixed and got parked, and yeah, I think we got hooked back to the trailer and got parked, and we took the dog for a walk, and we was walking along the sidewalk in front of the training pad, and I look over and I see this truck, bobtail, got his wheel scotched, and I was like, wonder why he's got his wheel scotched, because I don't see him working on his truck. And as we got a little closer, I could hear the truck idling, and I was like, oh, I bet you he's probably got a.p.u. problems too, and that's what he's doing, is idling his truck. I said, so I guess it does work. So we walked on past and walked down a little ways, and then when we came back, it was still idling, and I realized then he had his curtains pulled, so he was in the back sleeping. So sure enough, that confirmed it, and I got back to our truck, and we were, like I said, hooked to the trailer. So I did that. I sat the trailer brakes, disengaged the truck parking brake, and seen if it would work, and sure enough, it worked. I thought, man, why didn't I think about that whenever we had a.p.u. problems in the first place? It figures after I would get my a.p.u. fixed, that's when it would dawn on me. Duh, you can do that. And of course, like I said again, I think that guy's name's Tim Brown. He didn't help none. I mean, because he was the one on shift when I was asked. I said, I've tried everything. Is there anything else I can try that I'm just not thinking of? Oh, you can take it to a dealer, have them remove it. Oh. Yeah, didn't need that answer at that moment. I needed an answer to override it right then. So yeah, I guess he just didn't think about it either. But yeah, dumb me. I just slipped my mind. So let's talk about a couple of things that you can do if you happen to run into a.p.u. problems while you're out on the road. Alright, so this is the control panel in the bunk, and as you can see, I've got it on AC, and then this is your thermostat, and this is your fan. Now when you have it on AC, your fan runs automatically, so you don't have to turn that up if you don't want to. I usually don't use it, but you can barely see there's a little triangle right there. Now that triangle will light up either orange or red if you're having some kind of issue. Over here, let me see if I can get some light on it. Oh yeah. So over here, it will tell you what kind of problem you're having. And of course I was having engine problems. And this ALT is for alternator, and then your ACS is air conditioning. And of course you got standby. That's usually like whenever you start your truck, usually the a.p.u.s automatically will shut off and they'll go into standby, and then when you turn your truck off for the night, getting ready to do your 10-hour break, you can reach over here and just tap that power button one time. You don't have to hold it down, just tap it, and it'll go from standby to turning on. So one of the things you can do if your a.p.u. shuts down and you're throwing a code up here, come over here, hold down the power button, and it shuts it off. You can hear the fan quit running. Let it set for just a little while. I think Prime recommends around 20 seconds. Sometimes I give it a little bit longer, it just kind of depends on the situation. but then power it back on, and that usually resets the code. And most issues I've ever had are small issues like that, and that's all you have to do. And sometimes I can go for a long time and not have another issue again. Now out here at the a.p.u, get these two little buttons right there, and this opens up. And something that Prime recommended it to try was you have a power switch right there. That's in the off position. They told me to come out here, turn that off, turn it off in the bunk area, wait 20 seconds, come back out here, turn it back on, and then turn it back on in the bunk area, and do that kind of reset. Of course, in my situation, it didn't help, and I've never had to do that before. Like I said, I've always just done the reset in the bunk area, and that's always worked for me. Now, number two thing that you have to do if you continue to have issues that I've noticed a lot of times is the problem. Our a.p.u's use coolant back here. Some a.p.u's, different companies have a.p.u's, and it actually connects to the coolant reservoir or the radiator of the truck itself. Prime doesn't do that. Our a.p.u's have their own reservoir, and I'm actually glad of that, because if you ever was to get a leak, at least it won't drain your truck coolant, because if it drains your truck coolant, well, then your truck's going to overheat. So this is kind of a nice little safety feature to keep that from happening, because if it gets a leak, it'll just leak from here and your a.p.u just won't run. But these sensors are really sensitive, so you want to make sure that this is full. Also, check your oil. There's your dipstick right there. Pull that out, check your oil. Make sure that you'll have a line down at the tip of the dipstick, and then a line about, I don't know, 1.5 inches or so up from that. Make sure it's close to the top mark. It don't necessarily have to be on it, but if it gets low, it don't even have to get all the way to the bottom, to the tip of the dipstick. If it's just, say 3/4 of the way down, I've had them to where they will throw a code and they'll quit running. So make sure that's filled up. Now in my case, I checked all those things. And none of them worked. Which, again, I had a feeling it was because it wasn't getting fuel. Now your fuel pump is actually down here at the bottom. I got to watch them change it out today, which is cool, because I like to know how to work on my own stuff if I have to. And so yeah, the fuel pump is actually down here in the bottom of the casing, and I watched them change that out. And so yeah, it's running good now. And over there you can see brand new air lines and electric line. Reason why I didn't catch this, but right here you can see my other line, air line, was dangling down just far enough to where it was rubbing right there, and it rubbed a small slit in my air line, and it got about halfway through. I was gonna look and see if I could see it on here so I could show you guys, but as you can see, I stuck it in here, stuck those in there. When they changed them out, I'm gonna have to pay for these. These are 15-foot lines. They put me in extra spring up there and coiled it up to hold it up off the deck. But it was wore probably pretty close halfway through these lines here, and I'm glad he caught that. I'd hated to been out on the road and ended up having that trouble. So I noticed it was rubbing here. I didn't realize it was rubbing right there on that edge though. But yeah, since I'm gonna have to pay for these lines, I asked him, I said, man, can I keep those? And he said, well, yeah, sure. He said, I don't know why you'd want them. I said, well, just in case I ever need them. But especially if I've got to pay for the dang things, why wouldn't I want to keep them? I mean, if I'm paying for stuff, it becomes mine in my opinion. Alright, so back to the APU. The other thing you can do if you're still having APU problems after you check the fluids and you do the power down and reset is right here inside your storage box. Come in here and you can see you have a fuse panel. It's got screws inside them holes. There's 4 holes. Mine only had 3 screws for some reason. There's one right there and there's one on the other side. You take those screws out and this comes off. And you can see it shows you, you know, the fuses, where the main fuses are at. Some of them are relays, and these right here are actual fuses. They're big fuses, but they're you know, look like regular fuses, just twice the size. You can go through those and check them. She actually told me it was like F1 through 9 or something like that had to do with like the power, but I just went through and checked all of them. I mean, I'm already doing it, so I might as well check them all, you know. But that's the other thing you can do to check and see, you know, if you have a burnt fuse. So that's usually the last thing I check is the fuses, because one reason is because it's kind of a pain to get to when you have a lot of stuff inside that storage compartment. But yeah, check your fuses. I have had that issue before where it was just a burnt fuse. Changed the fuse out and good to go. Didn't have any problems after that. Now sometimes you do, after you change the fuse, you still want to power that down, which I would probably power it down before I even change the fuse or check them. So power it down, that way after you change the fuse it kind of is reset when you power it back on. So this is the second time that I've had problems with an APU like this since I've been with Prime. The first time they said they found a leak there at Prime when I came in. I think that was last year, and yeah, it was last year. And I was like, well, that's funny because I keep checking my fluids and I haven't noticed it really losing anything. And they said, well, it's so small you can't see it. So I went ahead and let them work on it, and they screwed it up worse than it was. So when I left, I was going to Colorado, and yeah, later on at night when I was trying to run it kept shutting off on me. It wasn't running properly. So oh man, I threw a fit. I was pretty pissed, and ended up stopping there at the Thermo King at Denver. And that dude there, he took all of Prime's parameters off, he updated it, he fixed the shit that they screwed up on, and that air conditioner it would run you out of there. You couldn't turn it all the way wide, you know, as far cold as it would go, because it would freeze you out. So anyway, I'm gonna end this video here, and should have a couple more vids coming up pretty soon. And as always, stay safe and stay alert.